Welcome back to the Next Gen Prophets podcast. I am your host, your mentor, and big sister, Deborah-Anne Velthuysen. Now we're coming in with part 2 with our incredible guest, Harmonee Wampler, a mother to the nations. Guys, if you did not catch the first part, please, I highly recommend you pause this recording and go catch up on the first part, because that sweet anointing that poured off of that conversation is bringing healing to so many of you. And we're going to continue that healing in this session. But before we get started, make sure you've booked your free prophetic consultation. Go to www.myprophetictribe.com. Michael and I want to know your name. We want to know your process. We want to give you language for that process. And we want to accelerate you in your destiny. We believe in you. So go book that appointment. Let us get to know you. And I will see you at that appointment. Now, Miss Harmonee, we have been having an incredible conversation here, and I'm excited to pick it back up from where we left off. We were talking about love, but before that, I want to double back to something you mentioned earlier in the first podcast. We were talking about marriage and finding that balance between being that stay-at-home mom and not necessarily being excited with ministry and all this stuff, but something else I've recognized that I had to navigate in my own marriage, but I've also seen many other couples try to navigate in full-time ministry is honestly a little bit of a jealousy that comes up when one of them seems to take the limelight or be center stage more than the other. Did you ever experience that? And if you did, how did you learn to navigate or come to terms with that? Because it does seem like Caleb is always more in the spotlight than you. Was there ever that time where you felt kind of a little maybe offended or a little jealous or bitter at that? And how did you navigate that?
I think there was definitely a season where I felt some hurt, where it almost felt like, here we launched out together, and it was always, here's Caleb and ministering, and I loved it, and I totally supported that. But there was times where I felt like, oh, maybe I don't have a part in this, and you felt a little left out.
Yeah.
And so it definitely came to a moment where, Caleb and I had to talk and just pray about it, and just, I shared my heart too. I want to feel included in that we're doing this together. And so, it may not be where I'm necessarily traveling or speaking or doing that together, but I just want to be included in any way that I could be at that time, which, definitely changed throughout the seasons.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to feel included. And so we kind of talked through that, figured it out. And so that's kind of changed where I could help with things behind the scenes, or I could help with little things like helping get a suitcase together and just help feel a part of it.
So I know you already mentioned a little bit this. Would you mind going a little bit deeper? I mean, what was it for you that helped you really feel a part? And what would you recommend to some of our audience to begin maybe doing or having a conversation to help feel part of what the other person is going through?
Yeah, I think definitely part of it was just a heart change, if I can be really honest, and just going to the Lord, and Lord, this is how I feel. And just that even comes back a little bit to that identity, because I sometimes we wrap our identity in what we're doing, but also just, realizing hey, I'm still serving the Lord and my family by serving my family as well. Because sometimes I forget that, especially when you're, knee deep in diapers and spit up. But just realizing I'm still part of this, but also just, talking it through with my husband and just saying, I need you to feel like, I'm helping you. And so just even words of affirmation and just including me in the process, even just some of it was just talking to me about things that was going on. Because if I felt completely out of it, it was really hard for me. So sometimes I'm I just need to be in communication with you and just knowing, so I feel more a part of it, even though I may not physically be doing everything. But that was another component of it that really helped me to feel more part of it. So there was kind of a couple of things that kind of helped. Those the heart change and just being in communication with my husband, just being part of some of the decisions and some of that, even though I may not be doing some of the physical things.
Man, you're touching on so many things here. I remember such a time when I first had my kid, up until that point, guys, you need to understand something. Babies really do change a lot of things in your life, and you need to be prepared for that. I feel like this is something people in ministry, in life, really underestimate the kind of bipolar disorder that manifests in you when you become a parent. Because especially as a mother, I've got wife, I've got mom, I've got sister, I've got daughter, and I've got friend and minister, and I've got all these hats that I've got to kind of figure out. And each one is its own distinct kind of personality. And I remember, you know, my husband and I, we've been married 8 years now. And for the first few years, of course, I was, you know, it was me and him against the world, just the two of us. And then I got pregnant, and then we had our NICU. We were in the NICU for 4 months with life or death. We lost one of our twins. So we're figuring out grief and still doing full-time ministry, by the way, in the middle of COVID, counseling, appointments, in between emergency calls from the doctor saying, hey, your daughter is dropping oxygen. We're going to need to look at resuscitating. You need to get here right now. And so we had all of this stuff, and then we come home, and it feels almost like I got put on the back burner because I'm changing the diapers, I'm breastfeeding, I'm doing all this thing, and my husband's getting to sit front and center in all these Zoom calls, all these meetings, and there I am, almost unappreciated, feeling like I'm not part because I'm having to do all this stuff. And I remember being so conflicted with myself because I'm like, God, like, you've called me to be a voice to my generation, but I literally just don't even have a voice right now in my own home, never mind to my generation or to the people out there. Like, what is going on? And God said, because I'm taking you through refinement. You've got to find your identity as a mother, because being a mother is going to be a huge part of the voice that I'm about to give you. Because if you don't know what your voice sounds like in the silence, you won't be able to help others find their voice. And it was such a beautiful transition that I had to make, and I am now bolder. I am teaching my children to be bold, and they are loud in their voices. Children really tell you what kind of parent you are.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, I love how you said you had to find your identity. How do you feel that really helps, now doubling back to what we were discussing as we ended off our last part, in helping others come to terms with their identity?
Yeah, and you know, it looks a little different for every person. It's no cookie cutter shape. And so I think it really comes back to just seeking the Lord. I mean, like, Lord, I need you to help show me. And I remember just seeking out the Lord. I'm like, I'm feeling lost. Like, I'm sleep deprived. I'm trying to figure out how to get this done when I have this going on. And so it's just so much juggling, but I really had to go back to the Lord and just be like, Lord, just help me to see it. And I felt like he just began to affirm me as a mother, and even used other people to speak into my life. Because sometimes you felt like you weren't doing a good enough job. And, you know, if just hearing from others like, you're doing great, just stay in there, it's tough. And just knowing that I wasn't alone really helped. And even just hearing your story, I'm like, oh yes, I definitely had those moments, those thoughts. And so just going back to the Lord, like, he just began to affirm that motherhood in me, and that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Because sometimes I felt like, maybe I'm missing it. Maybe I should be doing more, but just affirming me in my role as a mother. And that really helped prepare me for the next stages.
So now, what do you feel there is a difference between being a mother to the nations? And I'm using this word very deliberately because you've traveled to more than one country, more than one nation. How do you feel being a mother or a spiritual mother changes from country to country? Like, do you feel there's a different expectation for the American culture here for a mother versus a feel for a mother out there in, like, the African countries or these other countries that you've been to? Or how do you bridge the gap between these two?
Yeah, you know, I think I'm still kind of figuring out, just like with motherhood and with my kids, I'm still learning and growing. But, you know, I think just seeing things culturally, like, you're observing a lot, you're seeing the different environments, and, you know, even spiritually, there's different things going on spiritually. And so you're kind of figuring and navigating all of that. But, you know, really, it comes down to people. People are people wherever you go. And there may be some cultural differences. And just like our children, they may have different personalities, different likes or dislikes, but they're still your children. And so even, you know, going to different countries, different continents, there's those different likes and dislikes, the different things you see, but they're still just children. Yeah. And you love them for who they are. And the same kind of applies like with your children. You may discipline differently or talk to one child differently than another just based on how you know them. And so, sometimes there are those differences. You may talk differently with someone than another person, but they're still
the
your
same.
children. Yeah, they're still the same. You love them where they're at.
What do you feel? Do you feel there are, or what do you feel the difference is? These two healthy versus unhealthy expectations people have for a mother, especially in a spiritual role. I feel like we have a lot of expectations for spiritual parents in this day and age, but not necessarily all of them are very healthy. What has been your experience with that? And what do you feel is a healthy versus unhealthy expectation we should be having of spiritual parents?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we get a lot of expectations from people, but bottom line, that's just people's expectations. And it's really like, what does the Lord call us to? And, just studying what the Bible says as parents, like how we should be. And so I really try to not worry about what others think or the expectations they put on me, because that just adds more pressure. But, I'm just like, Lord, give me guidance. And how am I supposed to be a mother to this person? How do I help them in this situation? And just going back to the word, just with so many things, you see people going through hard things, and it's like, well, what does the Lord say about this? And just using that. And so I think really just, a lot of times, even in our roles as motherhood, there's the comparison game and just the expectations of others. So really just try not to compare myself to anybody else. I feel like I'm still, a new mother with a baby in this role, new to it, but, just not comparing myself to others and like, this is what the Lord's calling me to. So I'm going to stick to my lane and not worry about others.
How do you feel being a spiritual mother really impacts, for example, the evangelistic and the call to the crusades?
I think we as women can bring another perspective. My husband, he is, there to bring the gospel, and sometimes more practically as kind of in the mother role, we see the physical needs too. So I feel like even in the natural, sometimes just with my husband, I'm trying to help him in the natural, like, oh, you need this ready, I'll help you get this ready. And here's this, oh, let me help you get this. And then even when you get to the crusades or different things, since you're sometimes a little bit more behind the scenes, you can have a little more freedom to be able to go out into the crowds or go out to people, and you can just do more one-on-one time, which is really special. And so I think just trying to see the needs of the people and kind of delve into that.
I love this concept of delving into the needs of the people. And we're going to talk more about that in our next part, you guys. I want us to look a little more practically on how we can delve into meeting those needs, identifying them, and meeting the needs of those people. So stay tuned for part 3 of this series that we've been talking with Miss Harmonee. But if you haven't done it already, go sign up. www.ngpsummit.org. Book your tickets for our Next Gen Prophet Summit happening in San Diego, March 2026. Michael and I want to see you there. We want to give you a big hug. This is your big sister tuning out. I'll see you in the next podcast.